Hey, what's going on? Welcome to my unfinished kitchen, and today I'm going to be talking about taxes. It is February 2021 and I am starting to get ready for getting my taxes done. So I wanted to go through a little bit about my process in case you are a new contractor or just looking to get some guidance on taxes in particular, if you have your own business. So basically, here's what I've got set up here. I have this little box that I keep in my office. All year long, I put all of my receipts into it. A lot of people will bring this to like H&R Block or something and hand this to them and say, here you go. And they're like, what? So that's not what I do. I'm gonna take this and transfer it into these manila folders. And then these are gonna all be categorized by what the receipts are in particular. And then these will make their way into this plastic box, which is currently empty because this is where I store my previous year's taxes, in this box. And then after a year's over, this is empty now because I put them into a shoebox or whatever box I've got that can hold them, because you're supposed to keep your taxes for like 10 years or something like that. So I've got these all stored down in my basement. So anyway, I'm gonna go through this all. I've got a list here from last year's bin, so I know all the tabs that I want to make. So really quickly, I'm gonna run down the categories that I'm going to put on the manila folders. The first one's gonna be a question mark. Then I've got my auto loan, and then all the rest of my auto stuff, my bank statements, my business insurance. Now, I should also say I'm doing this all in alphabetical order, you'll notice. So that when they're in here, they're way easier for me to find. So where was I? Business insurance. Then I had business materials and supplies, which now I call job supplies. And the only reason I switched that was I use QuickBooks, which I'll get into later. I now use QuickBooks versus I used to do this and then put this all into a spreadsheet and then give that to my accountant. But now it's all done automatically through QuickBooks, but I'll get there. So then that next is my CAS lumber payments, charitable contributions, clothing, equipment, health insurance, income, IRA, meals, medical, miscellaneous, mortgage, National Grid, which is electricity, office, old checkbooks, phone, internet, Piper, my dog, just so I can keep track of what I spend on her, my accountant, his company, sales tax, State Farm, which is all my automobile and my homeowner's insurance, quarterly taxes, actually it says taxes quarterly, tools, Verizon, which is my cell phone, and Wells Fargo, which is my, what is that? It's another loan I've got for my appliances, I think. So those are all the categories that I'm gonna put onto these manila envelopes. I got it right. I've said vanilla the last 3 times. I'm gonna put those on here, and I'm actually gonna use this. The whole reason I'm down here is I'm gonna go through this and I'm gonna put everything in piles based on what they are, and then I will be able to just stick them in the manila folders. So the reason I'm gonna do that is this is just a pile. So this at the bottom of the box is January 1st, 2020, and the top of the box is December 31st, 2020. So it's just, goes in order of the whole year. And then I've also got some manila folders in here already from my file cabinet from jobs that I've done this year. This is actually like the smallest pile that I've had in a really long time because we had 2020 COVID. So I had all my jobs got shut down for a long time, and then I kind of decided to kind of shift gears in my business and have been doing a whole lot of actual physical work. So I don't have a ton of like big job folders like I usually do. So this is gonna go pretty quick. So I'm gonna do this all in like hyper speed, so you don't have to watch me sort through it. And then I'll talk more about deductions and stuff in particular. I should also say, get an accountant. Just get an accountant. It's much easier to deal with, for them to deal with, because they do it for a living. All right, let's clear the table. All right, so now I got all those in the folders, and it's super nice because now it's all in alphabetical order. So if I have to go back and reference anything like, oh, I bought a tool and I need to find the receipt, I just go in here, alphabetical order, pull out the tool folder, and now it's all in order from January to December. So it's easy to find. If I'm like, oh, I bought it in the summer, I just dig to the middle of that pile. So I really like this. This works really well for last year's taxes. So there we go. Now the only things I've got left are some stuff I want to go over just to make sure I'm okay. Specifically, forms that have to be handed to the accountant, because this stuff all gets just stored away. Like I said, I use QuickBooks, so none of this will actually go to my accountant. The only thing that's going to go to my accountant is these papers, which is like 1099s, W-2s, that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Tax things. So I've just got to hand him these, and I'll probably go through some of these files. There's some of them that I want to look at just to make sure that there's nothing in there that I need to like pull out for any reason. So let's go up in the office and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the write-offs and things and some of the folders that I made up and how I'm going to be writing some of this stuff off as a business, which is super important. Again, why you need an accountant who knows what they're doing, because you can save yourself a lot of money by taking deductions for write-offs. So let's go upstairs and do that. All right, so we got the box all set. Let's go through some of these deductions a little bit, just really quickly. So I read off all the file folder names at the beginning, but I just want to touch on them quickly again. So auto basically is any auto expenses that are deductible. Auto includes my truck and my car, which I actually just sold my car. My truck, I 100% write off. You're supposed to keep track of mileage, so you can keep track of your work mileage versus your personal mileage on the vehicle. Now, I kept track of mileage for like 15 years and never ever had an audit or ever needed to prove it. So I kind of stopped doing it, which I know is not good. So I wouldn't recommend that, but I write off the truck completely because I only use it for work and I've always had a second vehicle available. So I've just done that. Other auto expenses is insurance and repairs and anything like that. Any expenses for a vehicle that is made or that is used for work. And if it's you keep track of mileage, and then at the end of the year you figure out the percentage you used it for work and business, and the percentage would be the deduction of all of the expenses for that vehicle. And deductions are all like, let's say you make $100,000, and with all of these things you have $25,000 worth of expenses, then your income is based on $75,000 is your taxable income. So all this stuff is basically just, you got to keep track of this so you can write it off, and you can prove it down the road if you ever get audited. So auto is an easy one. Business insurance, obviously if you have business insurance, which if you're doing construction, you should have business insurance, that would be 100% write off. The next one is charitable contributions. So if you make any charitable contributions throughout the year to certain charities are going to be, they'll give you a receipt for it and it will say that it is deductible tax expense. Some charities are not, so you have to be careful. You can't write off everything. But that is something that is a nice thing to do for other people, and you can get your taxes down also. Clothing. So in construction, like my work boots and any specific clothing that I have to buy for my job, I'm able to write off. Equipment is the next one, and that's like I bought a trailer. We actually started this file in particular, I think this year or last year, and it's equipment over $500. So like I said, I bought a trailer last year for like $5,000 and that went under equipment. And the equipment ones are not all written off in 1 year. These larger purchases, actually auto too, you know, if you buy a vehicle, it's not written. You can write it off in the first year if you need that deduction that year. But typically you span it out over, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. So it's not all in 1 year, it's split up. And I don't know how they do it. They keep track of it. My accountant's really good. Again, get an accountant. They're amazing. You need it. Next one's health insurance. I don't remember exactly how that works, but there is a deduction for health insurance. I'm just not sure exactly what it is. Income and old checks. So whenever I get a check from people, I have a spreadsheet and I just write down the name, the date, the payment, the check number, how much, and then I have if it's taxable or not, and then if it's from plowing. So just so I have it on record. And again, all this stuff is done in QuickBooks. So anything that I run through my bank accounts are connected to my QuickBooks, and that stuff automatically I deal with in QuickBooks. This is just like the paper backups, the paper trail, literal paper trail. Then I got a tab for my IRA, so they send me like updates every month or something. So I just like to keep those in here. Job supplies, so that is not specific to jobs in general. All these tabs in the back here are actual jobs and the receipts from those jobs. Job supplies is, you know, I gotta buy screws or something that I have to buy for the business, I guess. That I lump into this job supplies category. Meals. So if you go out to lunch and you bring a guy and you talk business for the whole time or a majority of the time, you can write off the meal. However, meals and entertainment are their own category and they're only worth 50%. Next tab is medical. Now medical expenses aren't write-off. They're not write-offs, but I just like to keep track of any medical expenses. So dental receipts or whatever other medical stuff I've got. Mortgage. So now mortgage payments, National Grid, the electric, and the phone and internet for the house. Because I have a home office, you take the square footage of your house and you find the percentage of the house that is your office and you write off any house bills. So there's a percentage of my mortgage, a percentage of my electricity, percentage of my internet, a percentage of my homeowner's insurance, and then also a percentage of any work that I do on the house as a whole. So I bought this house kind of as a flip, and I've gutted this entire house and redone it, and a percentage of that has been like a deduction on my taxes every year. Now, the only thing with that, I'm pretty sure when I go to sell the house, there will be income based off of that sale. But again, I'm not 100% sure. Check with your accountant. The next one, because I already talked about National Grid, so the next one is office supplies and software. So that is exactly what it sounds like. These manila folders, I had to buy these. So that goes in office supplies and software. Next one is Piper. That's my dog. I just like to keep track of her medical receipts and dog food and stuff so I know what it cost me throughout the year. Next one is professional development. So I worked with a life coach, business coach, something like that this year. I also started taking online classes for my real estate license. So stuff like that I put in this professional development category. Then my next one is called Ray & Co., which is my accountant. So this is, throughout the year, they handle all of my sales tax. They file my LLC. Every year you have to refile, or not refile, but you have to give them $25 to keep it up to date, and all that kind of stuff. I get my QuickBooks through them. I use QuickBooks Online, which is normally $40 a month. And through them, they get a discount, so it only costs me $32 a month, but all that, again, goes through them. So much stuff they do for me. They also have QuickBooks support, my accountant does. So if I have any questions or anything, I just call them up, and they run through it with me, and all that gets charged to my account. So the next one is State Farm. Their auto insurance, homeowners insurance. I've got an umbrella policy. I used to have a disability policy with them, which is actually, I didn't claim it as a deduction, because if you claim disability as a deduction, then if you had to get disability, when that money comes to you, that is then deductible, or then taxable, my bad. So to avoid getting taxes taken out of your disability, you can not write it off. And then you're paying taxes on it now, and then when you get the money, it's tax-free. But I don't have my disability policy anymore. So the next one is tools, and this one's pretty thick this year, actually. I upgraded a lot of tools this year, and everything's a write-off. So like I said, equipment earlier is everything over $500, and the tools is, actually we call it small tools in QuickBooks. That's everything under $500. So taxes is just copies of my quarterly payments for federal and state for income tax. The sales tax, like I already said, is in my accountant's file, because they have all that stuff on file. All those sales tax and all that kind of stuff, I actually don't have to keep track of really, because they have it all on file. They just pull up my file and boom, it's right there. And then Wells Fargo, which is just a loan for all of my household appliances. So again, that is a percentage of the square footage of the house, and then deducted over a certain number of years. And then to wrap it up is all my jobs in the back, as well as I've got a file for my house, all the receipts for everything that I purchased to do any repairs and whatever upgrades on the house. So I used to bring this whole case to them, and we'd sit down, and actually I would take all of that stuff, the old way that I did this, and you can do this if you don't want to use QuickBooks, just take all that stuff and enter it into a spreadsheet. You just tally everything up. You could actually just tally it up with a calculator and write it on a piece of paper if you don't know how to use spreadsheets, but it's very easy to do. And when you do this preparation, it's worth it. And then you have all this stuff, it's all filed away, and you just grab this and you can reference it for years to come, and it makes life super easy. So I think that's about all I got to say today. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you want me to go into more detail about any of the deductions or anything like that, I can make a follow-up video. I think this is probably enough information for today. So if you got anything out of this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up down below. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And if you subscribe, ring that notification bell so you can get notified of my new videos. And I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye. So those are all the categories that I'm gonna make onto these manila envelopes. So those are all the categories that I'm going to put onto these vanilla envelopes. So those are all the categories that I'm gonna put onto these manila envelopes. I got it right. I've said vanilla the last 3 times.